Margaret Calloway didn't do ordinary. She didn't fly commercial. She didn't wait in lines. And she certainly didn't eat at restaurants where the menu didn't have a dress code. So when her assistant accidentally booked a table at Maison Alara, one of Manhattan's most exclusive fine dining establishments, instead of their usual private rooftop club, Margaret didn't complain. She simply adjusted. She arrived in a black town car, wearing a $4,200 Chanel dress. Her 7-year-old son, Beckett, dressed in a tiny tailored blazer that cost more than most people's rent. Heads turned. They always did. Margaret Calloway was worth $2. $4 billion. Forbes had listed her 3 years in a row. She had built her empire from a skincare startup in her 20s to a global beauty conglomerate that employed over 14,000 people. She was sharp, ruthless when necessary, and deeply private about one thing: her son. Beckett was everything to her. Since his father had walked out 4 years ago, it had been just the two of them. And every Friday night, no matter how many board meetings ran late or how many international calls were scheduled, Margaret blocked her calendar. Friday night was Beckett's night. Tonight, they were celebrating. Beckett had won his school science fair, first place, beating out kids 2 grades above him. His project on water filtration systems had left the judges speechless. Margaret had cried in the parking lot afterward, alone in her car where no one could see her. Before composing herself and calling the restaurant, the maitre d' seated them at the best table in the house, corner booth, soft candlelight, a view of the glittering Manhattan skyline. "Mom," Beckett whispered, eyes wide. "This place looks like a castle." Margaret smiled. A real one, not the polished boardroom version. "Only the best for my scientist," they ordered. Lobster bisque for her, a fancy mac and cheese for Beckett because even billionaires can't make 7-year-olds eat escargot. The evening was perfect. Until the man at the next table caught her attention. He didn't fit. Not in a rude way. He wasn't causing a scene. But Margaret noticed things. It was what made her good at business. And this man, sitting alone with a little girl across from him, was clearly out of place. His suit was clean but worn at the elbows. His shoes were polished but old. He was studying the menu the way people study a test they haven't prepared for, carefully, anxiously, doing math in his head. The little girl was maybe 6. She wore a yellow dress with a small bow in her hair that was slightly crooked, the way bows go when a father ties them. She was clutching a crayon she'd apparently brought from somewhere and was drawing on the paper tablecloth liner with intense focus. Margaret watched the man quietly ask the waiter something, then nod slowly and order what she recognized as 2 of the least expensive items on the menu. He wasn't here for the food. He was here for her. The little girl. Something about that hit Margaret in the chest. She turned back to Beckett and pushed the feeling aside. This wasn't her business, but then she heard it. "Daddy, is this a fancy place?" "The fanciest," the man said, and his voice, his voice, carried so much love and so much exhaustion in the same breath that Margaret had to look away. "Are we celebrating?" the little girl asked. A pause. "We're celebrating you, Bug. Every day with you is worth celebrating." Margaret picked up her wine glass and stared at the skyline. She tried not to listen. She really did. But Manhattan restaurants, even the exclusive ones, have tables close together. And the man, she would later learn his name was Daniel Reeves, wasn't trying to be heard. He just was. She caught pieces. He was a former high school teacher. He'd lost his job 8 months ago when the school district cut the budget. He was doing substitute work, driving for a rideshare app on weekends, and taking online certification courses at night to become a licensed electrician. His daughter, Lily, had just been accepted into a gifted program at a new school across town. That was what they were celebrating. He'd saved for 6 weeks to bring her here. 6 weeks of skipped lunches and extra overnight shifts and saying no to things so that he could say yes to one perfect night for his daughter. Margaret sat very still. Beckett was telling her something about his science project, something about pH levels, but she was only half listening. Her eyes kept drifting to the little girl in the yellow dress who was now showing her father her drawing. A house with a sun and 2 stick figures holding hands. That's us, Lily said proudly. Daniel Reeves looked at that drawing like it was the Mona Lisa. Margaret excused herself to use the restroom. She didn't go to the restroom. She found their waiter near the service corridor and spoke quietly for about 90 seconds. The waiter nodded, glanced toward the table and nodded again. She went back to her son. "Mom, you okay?" Beckett asked, studying her face with those too perceptive eyes of his. "I'm great, baby. Tell me more about the pH levels." When Daniel Reeves asked for the check at the end of the evening, the waiter smiled and told him it had been taken care of. Daniel blinked. "I'm sorry?" "Your bill, sir. It's been settled." Along with a note. The waiter placed a small cream envelope on the table. Daniel opened it slowly. Inside, on the restaurant's monogrammed card, was a handwritten note. "A father who saves 6 weeks to celebrate his daughter is doing something most people with full bank accounts never manage, making her feel like the most important thing in the world. That matters more than you know. Dinner's on me. Keep going." No name, no number, just those words. Daniel looked up, scanning the restaurant. The corner booth was empty. The billionaire and her son were gone. He looked at Lily, who was still coloring, completely unaware. His jaw tightened. He pressed his lips together. He breathed slowly through his nose the way people do when they're refusing to cry in public. Then he folded the note, placed it carefully in his breast pocket, right over his heart, and smiled at his daughter. "You ready to go, Bug? Can we come back someday?" "Yeah," he said, standing and helping her with her coat. "Yeah, we can." Margaret's town car moved silently through Midtown. Beckett had fallen asleep against her arm, his little blazer askew, his science fair ribbon still pinned to his lapel. She looked out at the city, her city, the one she'd conquered, the one that had made her rich and respected and relentlessly busy. She thought about Daniel Reeves eating 2 of the cheapest things on the menu so his daughter could feel like a princess for one night. She thought about how she'd spent $847 on dinner and felt nothing special until she'd spent $0 on kindness and felt everything. She pulled out her phone and, for the first time in years, opened her personal journal app, not a business note, not a calendar reminder. Her journal, she typed 3 sentences. "Beckett won his science fair today. A stranger reminded me what winning actually looks like. It looks like a yellow dress and a crooked bow and a dad who never stopped trying." She locked her phone. Outside, Manhattan blazed with 1,000,000 lights, each one belonging to someone with a story she'd never know. But tonight she knew one, and it was enough.